Hey guys, welcome to Horology Biology. On this video, I have got hold of the cheapest mechanical watch you can possibly buy on Amazon, coming in at a mere $29.99. Now this is a full mechanical watch and it's in a full skeleton case so you can see the movement from the front and the back. It is the Sewor. $29.99 for a full mechanical watch? I'm super sketchy about this. Is it good or is it bad? I'm going to let you guys decide in this video. I'm going to actually strip this watch fully down to the bare bones. I'm going to clean everything, I'm going to rebuild it, and I'm going to oil it, and I want to basically see if it's going to run a little bit better than it was when I got it out of the box. So I did put it on the Timergrapher just to see exactly what it was looking like when I got it out of the box. Not amazing. I was getting an amplitude in the really low 220s, which is not fresh. Not fresh at all. So basically, I'm going to remove this leather strap of it. Well, it says it's leather and it does smell a little bit like cow, but yeah, I'm debating at that price if it is actually a real leather strap. What I'm doing now is I'm actually going to remove the case back from the watch. I'm using my industrial case removing tool because this thing was hard to get off. And then I realized something. It wasn't actually going anywhere. And lo and behold, it's actually a snapback. It's not a screwback case, which was a little bit confusing because it actually has the indents, as you can clearly see on there, for it to actually be a screwback case, and it's clearly not. So once I got the case back off, I'm going to basically run the strip down now of this watch. Let's get it all down to the individual pieces, get it out of the case, and let's get working on it. So I've removed the crown and the wounding stem, and basically now I need to figure out how this actually comes out of this case. Now this metal feels cheap, and if I'm honest with you, this actual whole dial mechanics and the movement holder, if that's what you want to call it, it's basically like plastic. It's not metal at all. So I'm actually being quite careful with this. It was just friction fit, so literally the only thing that's holding it in place is the winding stem, which is not ideal, let's say, but I managed to free it and away we go. So of course, next step, I want to take off these hands, and to be honest, I don't think these hands look too bad considering what watch this is actually on. Covering up that so-called dial, or very little bit of a dial, obviously we've been a skeleton watch. I'm going to remove the hour, minute, and the seconds hand. I'm going to put those to one side, keep them safe. And then I can basically remove the movement holder and the dial, which is all basically connected together. And like I said, this is plastic, it's not metal at all. I'm actually debating what metal the actual movement is made out of, because I will be honest with you guys, this was not an enjoyable thing to work on. I was being super delicate with everything because obviously with it being $29.99, I am not expecting the high quality here in any shape or form. These kind of watches, I suspect at this price, are things that are going to last a few months and then it's going to die and you're going to throw it away. But I wanted to see if this is actually something that is fully serviceable or not. So I'm going to treat it like I treat any watch. I'm going to treat it with the same level of respect. I'm going to treat it with the same functionality methods that I use. And I'm going to basically go at it just like a normal watch. So just removed the balance cock and the balance. Obviously, I've let all the wind down of the watch, which was a little bit challenging as well because that click was not easy to actually activate to get the wind out of the watch. Removing the pallet cock held in with the one screw, as you can clearly see, and then I can remove the pallet forks as well. So next I'm removing this click, and as you're going to see underneath this massive click screw, it's like a click and a spring in one. It is no spring basically. It is just literally just like a single piece, and it was challenging to actually remove the wind of this watch like I just mentioned. So off goes the screw for the ratchet wheel, and I can remove that as well. Reverse threaded screw for the crown wheel. Came off easy enough. And underneath that there is a small washer. It's not a two-piece crown and crown wheel core, it's just got a little washer underneath. It's quite common, I've seen that on many watches as well, so nothing out of the ordinary there. So I flipped the movement over because obviously I want to tackle and get rid of the cannon pinion. And because this obviously is an exhibition watch, so to speak, being a skeleton watch, it has this extra plate that's holding down the hour wheel and the dial washer. So I need to remove that and get it out of the way. I did actually drop the screw into the mainspring barrel because that's also open on one side as well. But we got there in the end. So just removing that little bridge, and then I can take off the dowel washer and obviously the hour wheel as well. Underneath that we have got the cannon pinion, which comes off pretty straightforward as well. Taking off the minute wheel, and there is a small intermediate wheel there as well. But this was a strange watch to work on, I'm not going to lie. Like I said, it's very cheaply made. I mean, you can see. And like I said, I want to treat it with the same level of care and attention that I would with any watch, whether it's a 3-figure watch or a 4-figure watch, or with this case, a 2-figure watch. So removing the train of wheel bridge. Now, one thing I want to add in regards to this train of wheel bridge, the pivots barely, and I mean barely, poke through the actual jewel holes. And that's another thing as well about these jewels. They are not like normal jewels that I've seen on many other watches. These are almost like they're made out of plastic or something. They're very, very thin, very fine, and a little bit difficult to work with, I'm not going to lie. So now I can remove all of the wheels for the watch, giving them a quick inspection as I'm removing them. Out goes the escape wheel. And I have to say that the setup of this train of wheels, it's quite typical to any normal hand-wound watch. There's nothing peculiar about it. So removing the screws now for the barrel bridge. And then just easing that off as well. Taking out the mainspring barrel, and then as you can see, that is also half exhibition as well. So it is a proper barrel, obviously, but the majority of it is open to the elements, so to speak. So just removing this little bridge now, which is holding the center wheel in place, and then I can just remove that easily as well. I was very, very surprised to see that the center wheel was jeweled. For a watch of this price, yeah, that was very surprising to see, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've worked on many watches and worth a hell of a lot more money, and it's not that common that they are actually jeweled. On more modern watches, yes, but for a €30 watch, I was a little bit surprised to see that that was jeweled. Kind of a pleasant surprise, super fresh. So just breaking down the keyless works now. I've removed the yoke spring, taking out the stem, and then the winding pinion and the sliding pinion as well have just dropped out, so I can put those to one side as well. So I'm just pegging it like normal, like I would with any watch. And I have to say as well, I don't even feel so that I needed to peg anything. You know why? This thing was dry, man. Like, I don't even think it's been oiled, like, ever. Like, there was no oil stains. There wasn't even any signs of oil there at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's never even been oiled. So just tackling the mainspring barrel. I don't even know what this movement is, seriously. So if you know what it is, drop it in the comments. Let me know what it is, because I'm not sure what it is. This mainspring basically evaded me as well, as you can clearly see. So just basket prepping now. All of the parts going into the basket. Straight into the cleaning machine. Running this with the Elma products as well, so it's getting the proper professional stuff. So rebuilding the watch, and I'm actually putting the mainspring in by hand. Some people don't like to do this. I'm actually pretty good at it, if I'm honest. And the main reason I did with this is because on my mainspring winders, I couldn't find one that would fit. So just popping in the arbor. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this, and I tried to clean it as best I could. For some weird reason, there does appear to be a small amount of rust on the inside of the arbor where the thread is. Little strange. I'm adding some 1300 to the mainspring. I've oiled it underneath as well, and I've also oiled the wall of the arbor before I put the cap back on, and then I can just press fit that just like normal. So guys, if you're finding this video informative, please hit a like on it. You can also drop a comment as well. It will really help this channel grow, and I would really appreciate it if you could just do that for me. So I'm going to oil the capstones as well. Again, I'm super skeptical if these have even ever been done, seriously. I saw some dust on the tops, but on the inside, there wasn't really anything to talk about. So again, I'm just going to treat these as complete normal, like any other watch. Fix-a-drop treatment, 90-10 droplet of oil on the middle of the jewel. I'm doing the top one, I'm also doing the bottom one, building them back up exactly the same way like I would any other watch. Whether it's a vintage watch, whether it's a modern watch, doesn't matter. It's getting the same treatment exactly the same way. So just taking the capstone out of the fixed drop, that's basically going to make sure that the oil doesn't run away from itself. You just want to have a nice little drop in the middle, covering about 70–75% of the size of the stone, and then I can put the cap back on. And that looks pretty clean. Again, I had to be so careful with this because, like I said, it felt so much more fragile than any other watch that I usually work on. And I didn't want anything to break because I didn't want to replace anything. So repeating the process for the dial side, speeded it up because it's exactly the same. You guys don't need to see it twice. And then just popping that back in. Now, once I've done with this, I don't need that balance anymore. So I'm going to basically remove the complete balance in the cock, and I'm just going to put that to one side and keep it safe until we need it at the end of the rebuild. But I've seen a few people reviewing these watches on YouTube, and I think, well, fair enough, but I like to do it a little bit different. So I'm like, I don't want to talk about it from a review perspective. I want to talk about it from a functionality perspective, whether it's serviceable or not. So starting with the full rebuild, I'm basically just adding some 1300 for the where the center wheel is going to go, also for where the arbor is going to sit in the mainspring barrel. Adding on this small bridge, which is going to keep that center wheel in perfect place. Also, you can see that that's jeweled as well. So it actually does have a lot of protection around that, which again surprises me for a watch of this value. It's not what I expected. So that's held in with the 2 screws. I'm just going to nip them up. And like I said, I was being extra careful with these screws because I know that this is not high quality. So doing it a little bit too tight and having one of these break, good luck. So on goes the mainspring barrel. Adding a little bit of 1300 to the top of the arbor as well. And then I can put on the barrel bridge on top. I'm assuming that this is some kind of brass, and it's obviously heavily chromed. Not in a very good quality, I must admit. You can see there's so many patch areas on it where it's almost bubbled a little bit. At a bit of a faraway distance, this watch actually doesn't look too bad. But when you start looking at it under the microscope, yeah, you're seeing where your $29.99 is gone. Not that far at all. But I'm not hating. No, sir. It's a watch, and it works. So building up the train of wheels, adding in the escape wheel, and then I can continue with all the rest. Added also a little bit of 1300 to the post as well on this, just before I popped it all the way in. Sorry, not this wheel. I'm getting ahead of myself here on the voiceover, guys. You have to bear with me. There we go. That's the oil I'm talking about. So just making sure that everything's positioned good, because obviously I have to put this bridge on. And this is also where I noticed my first, not intense problem, but a problem that I know is going to affect things down the line, let's say. Remember when I mentioned earlier on that hardly any of the pivots came actually through the jewel holes. Like, it might look like it there that they are, but trust me, they're really not. Now, I never did this, but I had an idea of what I could have done is, maybe I could have shaved a little bit off of that train of wheels bridge, just to make it sit a little bit lower. But it's a risk, of course, because I need to make sure that I do it equally all over. But I noticed it, and you'll see it now, especially from an oiling perspective. Like, for example, the escape wheel, that pivot is, yeah, I'd say it's halfway between in and out, let's say, which is not ideal. And the other thing as well is these jewels, they're not like the jewels that I would see on a normal watch, let's say, or a watch of, you know, a higher value. They're not like the normal synthetic rubies that you get. They're very thin and almost like plastic, if I'm honest. That's the best way I could describe them. They really just do look like red plastic. But we're going to treat them exactly the same as normal ones, and we're going to oil them in exactly the same fashion. So using 9010 on the majority, and then on the center we're using some 1300 as well. So a little bit of grease as well on the cannon pinion. Sorry, on the post where the cannon pinion is going to go. That's what I should have said. And then I can just friction fit that on. And it's pretty straightforward. It goes on no problems. You just basically push it on and it will just click into place, just like on any other watch. So now I can build up the motion works, add in 1300 on the post, and then I can put on this little washer for where the crown wheel is going to live. And then remember as well, always with the vast majority of crown wheels, you will have a reverse threaded screw. If it's a single screw and it's in the middle, it will be reverse threaded. And it doesn't matter what the value is of the watch, it's just the mechanics of how it works, so it doesn't basically unwind itself. With it being reverse threaded, it means that obviously when it's moving and you're winding it, it's always fighting against itself, so to speak, so it's not going to basically unwind and get loose. So a little 1300 for where the click is going to go. And that's held in place with that massive screw. I think they kind of killed two birds with one stone on this. You know, there's a screw that holds it down but actually covers it at the same time because it's so big. So, yeah, I can see the logic with it. I much prefer a two-piece though, a click and a spring. Because like I said, trying to actually get the wind out of this watch was quite problematic because you really have hardly any room to work with trying to hold that click back. So on goes the ratchet wheel. This again, I'm hard pressed to say if this is made out of steel. Seriously, guys, whatever it is, they're highly chromed. So, but then at the same time, I can't see that a ratchet wheel would be made out of brass. Yeah, that just doesn't make much sense to me. It's too soft. But I'm assuming that it's just a very, very low quality grade of steel. So just popping in the setting lever screw, which is not actually a screw, it's one of those push down ones, quick release. And then the setting lever. And then I can build up the rest of the keyless works. add in 1300 to the posts of everything for where the minute wheel's going to go, the intermediate, the yoke spring, etc. I like to do it all in one go, and then I can just build everything up. So a little bit of this grease on the winding pinion, and then I can pop in the sliding pinion as well. So the question is, guys, what's your take on this watch? Is this something that you would wear? Is this something that you would buy? For me, I don't want to sound snobby when I say this, but no, it's definitely not for me. I think this falls under one of those classic examples of the saying, in life, you get what you pay for. And if you're spending 30 euros on a brand new watch, and it's a mechanical watch, I should say, then yeah, don't expect, obviously, that you're going to get a very high quality watch. The question is, what I'm actually curious about is whether it's actually going to run a little bit better than it did when I got it out of the box. So just adding in the yoke and also the yoke spring, and I'm just adding a little bit of 1300 between the yoke spring and the yoke. And now I can add the setting lever spring in as well. That's held in with one screw. And I'm just holding it down with a little bit of pegwood, just keeping it secure so that nothing runs around. Another thing as well with this being a skeleton watch, everything is on show. So basically you want to really pay extra close attention to cleaning up any mess or any extra oil, etc. that you've got on there. Because obviously, whether it's on the front of the watch or it's on the back of the watch, it's going to be highly visible for the person that's wearing it because they can see the whole mechanics of the watch in question. So I've just added on the hour wheel and also the dial washer as well. And then I've added on that little bridge, which is obviously holding it all down. I had to use my tweezers to keep it like centralized because the screw kept on moving it around. So basically we're getting towards the end now. So I flipped over the watch and now I've given the pallet stones some fixer drop treatment. And one thing I just want to touch on in regards to these pallets, there is a slight little chipping to the exit stone of that pallet fork. Yeah, it's annoying. It's not on the face of it, so to speak. It's on the side, so I'm not 100% sure if it's going to have a massive impact. It probably will, but I'm pursuing with this anyway. So 9415 is now being basically added. It's important that each tooth of your escape wheel gets a little bit of oil. So I repeat this process 5 times. And now I can just basically add in the balance and hope that we obviously get a running watch. So it's running, so that's obviously is a really good sign. Question is it going to be running any better? Is it going to be running worse? I would be a little bit devastated if it was running worse than how it was when I got it, but still, we'll see how it goes. That would not be fresh. No, sir, would not. So I added on this weird dial with this weird plasticky movement holder. Again, it seemed all friction fit, and it went pretty straightforward. So I can refit the hands. Like any handset, exactly the same, just simply friction fit, and you can use a hand press tool, which I'm using for this, or you can use a different, more centralized one, like my Horology one. But for this, I felt just a normal hand press was sufficient. It's just with the 3 hands, it's no problem. There's obviously no date, so when you set in your hour hand, you can put it wherever you want, then just set it to the hour, and then of course put your minute hand on accordingly. So again, friction fit, just make sure that your hands don't touch. That's obviously very important. So obviously keep checking as you're going along. And once you're happy, then you can put on your second hand. And again, that's just simply on a tube fit in, so you will just simply press down, not too much, whatever you do. And of course, make sure that you still have enough clearance between that and the minute hand. Now again, I'm cleaning up any excess dust or markings because this is obviously the dial and it's on show. So I'm using a clean piece of Rodico just to basically remove any dust particles that are on the watch. Last but not least, of course, a little bit of grease onto the winding stem, and then I can case up this watch. So just flipping it over, and again, like I said, this thing is quite a bit of a tight fit, but still there are no screws, there's no movement clamps. The thing is literally held in there by the winding stem, which is, yeah, it's not ideal. But it is what it is. There's no other way of doing it. So again, just making sure everything is engaged and that the winding stem is in correctly, which it is. Now I can finish up with the casing up of the watch. So with this, there was a little area where the crown is a little indent. So I'm just lining that up. And then with a crystal press, I can basically just snap the case back onto the watch. It took very little effort. I probably could have done this with my hands if I'm honest. But it's always advisable to use a press if you have one because it's going to basically differentiate all of the weight accordingly and evenly, and you're not going to be able to do that with your fingers, especially if it's a tighter fit. So refitting this awesome leather strap, which, yeah, again, I'm not convinced it's real leather. Maybe it's meerkat, I don't know, 100% meerkat, I don't know. That would be a bit weird, but still. And now, of course, the moment but truth. Does it look better? Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't look that much different as far as I'm concerned, but I want to exactly see how it is on a timer perspective. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. So here we go on the Timergrapher. So we were hitting the early 220s. Are we going to get it a little bit better with this, given everything? Okay, up into the 234. It's not amazing, but it is an increase. You cannot lie. It's an increase of amplitude, and an increase of amplitude is super fresh. Guys, if you liked this video, please hit a like on it. It will super help the channel grow. And of course, feel free to subscribe for your chance to win a 1952 Omega Seamaster. Now that's a super fresh watch. You can also check out this restoration video on the screen right now for more super fresh, super nice restorations.